But for seniors under 65.
For the seniors under 65, they're on fixed income, get their property taxes fixed. It's called the Property Fairness Tax Credit.
Which will increase my taxes.
That's not possible unless you're living with no income at all.
No, based on your formula, it will increase my taxes.
What's your property tax? What's your value of your home?
$350,000.
The maximum, and what's your gross fixed income?
$75,000.
$75,000. You would pay, and that's fixed every year.
Yes.
The first 35 would be zero, so you're going to pay roughly, actually, no, you pay what I pay, full amount.
Yeah.
And right now, you're not paying the full amount.
Yeah, because I get the homestead exemption.
Well, you're going to get double that now.
No, I'm under 65.
Ma'am.
You said 65. I'm under 65.
But you're going to get the property fairness tax credit. And, yes, ma'am.
If you say so, we'll see.
Okay. Now, okay, fine. What was the second one was drugs.
The second one was the drugs.
Okay, the drugs. Right now, the state of Maine pays seniors over 65 that are 400% of poverty, which means that you get your drugs paid for if you make upwards of $50,000. And so if you're alone making $50,000, your drugs are paid for 100%. That's going to drop to 200% of poverty. So anybody who's making $24,000 to $28,000 will have their drugs paid for free by the state, and others will have to pay the copay, which is, in most instances, $4, $10, $15, and if you can get up as upwards of 40, I believe, in some policies. And what was the third question?
Also, the Medicare Savings Program.
That we're not touching that. We're increasing that. We're not touching the Medicaid Savings Program. See, the Medicaid Savings Program is not a state program. That's a federal program. So that one there, if ACA says we can't offer it, then that comes out to ACA, but it's not a state program that we're going to take away. I know, you must read newspapers.
I think they're Maine People's Alliance talking points, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Vitaly Klimovich. Vitaly? All right, we'll meet over here. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you got it. I'm Vitaly Klimovich from Arundel. And Governor, thank you very much for being here, talking to us. My main question is, I've seen some of the indications in your proposal of bringing businesses here, in particular. Can you elaborate that a little bit more? I'm particularly interested, what are you trying to do to encourage young people to stay here and to bring, say, biotech or pharmaceutical jobs? I'm a research scientist by training, have a very hard time finding anything in Maine, and I really don't want to move to Massachusetts, to Boston area, to get something along those lines.
And just one quick question. What profession are you in?
Biotech.
Biotech. I think, sir, you should be calling our office tomorrow because we have a demand for biotech in the state of Maine. We can't find enough qualified people. Now, but let me tell you how we're going to keep people here and how we're going to attract young people to stay here. Number one, you're not going to pay income tax. We're going to reduce the corporate tax from 8.93% down to 6.75%. Today, we have 45th highest corporate tax in America. That's going to drop it to 17. We're going to fully fund vetting. which BETE, we have better and Betty. We're rolling better into Betty, which means that any equipment you buy will be tax exempt. So we will not be taxing equipment. So that's for the corporations. But this is how we get young people to come to Maine and stay here. They bring a job. If our students go to college, for instance, and they go to college in Maine, they're going to get an interest-free loan. And if a company hires you and they're willing to pay your student loans off, they get a complete credit, dollar-for-dollar credit off their income tax. So the company comes in and they hire you for $100,000, let's say $75,000, and you got a $20,000, $25,000 student loan. If they pay that off and their income tax $100,000, they're going to get $25,000 forgiven, gone, because they paid off the student loan. So that's a win-win. What that does is it helps our people, our students, go to school, get an education. They put the time in. We'll pay for the interest on the loan. They get hired by a Maine company. Then we are, and we have whether they're a Maine company or a nonprofit, we have it works both ways. It works for everybody. Either while we're getting rid of the income tax over the next several years, the individual gets the break for paying the student loans off, or the corporation. But when the individual income tax is gone and the corporations or the hospitals or the nursing homes pay off the student loan, they're going to get the benefit of hiring a student. They're going to be paying the debt, but we're going to have other ways to what they have is not a profit, but it's called a surplus. And they get their monies from us in the first place, so we're going to give them more money to make sure they hire Maine people. But the big advantage is this. It's to attract younger people. If, let's say, you go to Notre Dame, you graduate, and you got $100,000 debt. You come to Maine, you take a job in Maine, your employer agrees to pay your loans off, your employer gets a full tax credit, you get your loans paid off so you can take your money and buy a house, start a family, buy a car, and the state is taking care of the interest on the money. So it's a win-win for everybody. Now, how do you attract companies? 3 things you got to do. You got to be more consistent in your public policies. You can't be changing the rules every year. And that's going to be a challenge because we have a legislature that really likes to change things. Secondly, if there's no income tax, that's taken care of. Now, if we can get the tax down to 6.75, we become not only competitive in New England, but we've become competitive nationally and not so much internationally because our corporate taxes are so high. We're the highest in the world. But for those companies here in this country, we're going to become very attractive. We're going to become attractive like Texas, like Florida, like South Carolina, like Arizona. So we will become more attractive in that sense. And finally, energy. And energy, despite the fact that the last 4 years I have been stopped every which way that they can when I go to the legislature. They have stopped me every single place they could, which is virtually every time I go upstairs. But we figured out a way not to have to go to the 3rd floor anymore. Because there are technologies out there now that work. Heat pumps. Heat pumps are a great technology. In the last 4 years, when I took over in 2011, 80% of the homes in Maine heated with oil. It's down to 62%. And in the last 2 years alone, 10,000 homes have converted from oil to heat pumps or to pellets. So we are getting there without the legislature even getting involved because Mainers figure out when there's a good technology out there, they'll take advantage of it. Now, they could help us if they remove the 100 megawatt limitation on all energies except for wind and solar. That would be very helpful to us. but we're gonna get there anyways. And you're gonna see a big speed up in the next couple of years, because now Massachusetts elected Governor Baker, who is a Republican, who does believe in natural gas. Rhode Island, who has a Democratic governor, has also signed on to natural gas. And Governor Malloy in Connecticut, who is also a Democrat, but has seen the value of coming on to natural gas. With these 4 states, now we have the volume that we can pay for the cost of putting a pipeline from Pennsylvania to Drake, Massachusetts. And once it gets there, then we have the capacity to take the gas from there. The problem is we can't get enough to Massachusetts so we can get it into our system. And what's happening from Nova Scotia is the gas fields in the ocean did not produce as much as they thought they would, and they're sort of drying up. So we really need to go to Marcellus in Pennsylvania. So when that's going to happen, I think by 17, that's going to be taken care of. So if we follow the plan, we are in really, really good shape to start prospering. And you know, you've heard the saying, you got to have money to make money. Well, with the 1.3 million people, if I could put $1.3 billion back in your pockets, you make the decision how it's spent, not DHHS, not DMR, not IF&W, and you know, they give me all these letters. I mean, I go crazy. I have no idea what they mean. All I know is the budget's $6 billion.
Thank you, Governor. Stephanie Hoyt. Stephanie Hoyt, going once. Tricia Hope.
Hi, thank you, Governor. My question is, how is your budget going to impact families that are sending students to college?
Well, it depends where they go to college. If they go to college out of state, they can get a student loan here in Maine, and they'll pay a very small interest rate. If they come back to Maine, they pay no interest. The kids in Maine, there are 2 things that are going to happen. One is, we are working very, very hard at getting a program in that's going to allow every higher ed student to get a loan from FAME, Finance Authority of Maine, no interest. And once they go to work and they start paying their loans off, they work in Maine, they have no interest on their loans. If their employer has the wherewithal to start paying on pay the student loan, then the student gets a free education because the employer is going to get a tax credit, a tax refund for the amount he paid the student loan. So that's what we're going to do. The other thing that we're doing right now, and I can only say to the land-grant schools and the community college system, is we're working very, very hard to redefine the systems and re-establish the systems with a lot less overhead and a lot more activity in the classrooms. So that's what we're doing to try to help the students, because the #1 loan in America right now is student debt. And I'm trying to reduce it so these young families can invest in their own families and in homes. There's a young couple in Portland, they both work in the medical field. They have $150,000 worth of debt. They're 28 years old, and they're looking for a home. They want to buy their own home and start a family. Those are the perfect couple to get into the system where the student loan can be taken care of through their employer, and they can go out and buy a home. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Great. Jean Leach.
Thank you for being here. I have a question about taxing nonprofits. It's troubling me a great deal.
Okay.
I know churches are exempt.
Yep.
Thank you.
First of all, taxing nonprofits, when you get down to what I'm talking about, you're talking about Bates, Bowdoin, Colby, and the hospitals. That's what you're talking about. What? Wait. Can I finish? Okay. I put in the budget $500,000 of real estate. Now, there's a few more than that. You can make it $1 million. But the overwhelming nonprofits in this state, and I'll give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. City of Waterville. I was the mayor there for 8 years. It has 3 hospitals, 2 colleges, 29 churches, 108 nonprofits. The size of the city is the smallest city in Maine at 12 square miles, 6 by 2. 41% of that city is non-taxable. So that means that the 17,000 people in Waterville pay their share plus 41% more. So my point is this, and the 108 nonprofits that are there, they're all small. Oh, you've got the Boys and Girls Club, they got a $1 million building, they'll be accepted. You've got to have a starting point. But the point I'm trying to make to you is this.
How are they exempted?
What's that?
How are they exempted?
The legislature. Don't you remember? They'd love to give everything away. Come on. My budget, they already took away the benefit to the elderly and the poor today. You think they're going to let that go through? They need to get reelected. That's not going to make it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about non-profit day camps, overnight camps, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
Domestic violence agencies?
Domestic violence agencies, if they got real estate worth $1 million, let me see them, because I work with them every damn day of the week.
500,000.
$500,000.
Okay, 500. Where's one that's 500,000?
Very unlimited. Instead of, over 700,000.
Ma'am.
It would be taxed 19,000.
Okay.
Your tax proposal. That's taking away agents, that's taking away programs. When Saco had the
How about this? Wait a minute. Folks, let me ask you this. Didn't I not say that I was going to put $1.3 billion back in your pockets? Why don't you give them a little bit? Because in 1950, let me tell you, in the 1950s and 60s, in the 1950s and 60s, I come from a family, 18 kids, we were welfare. And you know where you got the welfare food? You got a little bit of surplus from the state. But most of the churches, most of the organizations around collected and helped their fellow man. And what we have done is we've gone away from us helping our fellow neighbors and our relatives to having the state do it. And it doesn't work. 19,000. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Falmouth. They get revenue share of $457,000. They pay the state $41,100,000 a year. If I put it back in their pockets, you don't think that you went and asked them for a contribution, they're not going to help you? I guarantee you they will. I'm not a wealthy guy, but I would give my fair share. I already do. Can you guarantee the state is going to stay solvent? I will tell you right now, sir, you may not see it, but my children and my grandchildren will never live the life that I've lived in this country. I've lived the American dream, and with $18 trillion over the head of this country, these states better wake up, because we are going to be third world pretty soon. Right now, the interest rate on our debt is less than 1%, and it's costing the government $231 billion this year for the interest. What happens when the interest rate goes up to 3?
But back to nonprofits, when
remind everybody to stay respectful. We're here to answer questions. Please do not shout out your questions. We're not here.
Let her speak. Let her speak, because this is important. This is what
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to get back to the questions. Let's get back.
Let me ask you this. Okay, let's say this. We won't tax you. Fine. You want me to take it out? We'll take it out. So what? So we don't want to encourage. We don't want to encourage you as citizens to help your neighbor. You want government to do it. I'm sorry, I disagree with you. Thank you. Next
All
question.
right. The next question is coming from Richard Nass. Where are you?
How are you?
Mr. Nass, hold on just one moment. Let me get to you. That way we can hear you. I hold the microphone. It's those former reporter days. It doesn't let me let it go.
First of all, to really finish the other answer is that the nonprofits won't get taxed. I've already been told the legislature's going to take it out. So don't worry about it.
Governor, in your first term, big tax package that passed, you took 70,000 taxpayers off the rolls. What is this new plan going to do for the low-income taxpayers? Any more coming off the rolls?
Yes. The first tax in 2011, people that were paying 2% taxes came off totally, 70,000 people. This time, this budget right here, when passed, the first 50, if you're married with 2 children, first 50,000 is non-taxable. By 2020, nobody in Maine is going to be taxed. Nobody in Maine will have an income tax. You see that? You think that's?
I don't, Governor.
You disagree.
With all due respect, I was elected to speak truth to power, and I was in the legislature for 8 years. I sat on those tax committees when they wanted to tax haircuts and tax going to movies. The poor people, Governor, can't go to Disneyland. They don't.
But they don't pay tax. Where?
You're going to charge the tourists, but we live here. With the low-income people have to pay those taxes.
Madam, you're wrong. Please, you're wrong.
No, that's shocking, man. For God's sake, Governor.
Ma'am, please take her out. Okay, folks, I'm sorry. I'm willing to stay here and talk and try to help you explain it, but this is unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. But we're going to end at this point.